where we're doing a verse-by-verse study through the book of the Revelation of Jesus. We just finished chapter 17. This is going to be an overview on chapter 17, where I give a little bit of a recap. In a way, it's a prelude to chapter 18, the fall of Babylon, Babylon the Great. And this here gives you the symbolic pictures. You have these two contrasting pictures that go from, we were in the seven signs, we're in the seven bowls right now. We're in the seven signs. You had in chapter 12, starting it with the woman who was in birth pains, ready to give birth to the man-child that would rule the nation with a rod of iron. And that's the contrast to this woman, the harlot, who's drunk on the blood of the saints. And so there's the two women in the conflict. The same way you have these two cities. You have Jerusalem and Babylon. Jerusalem becomes the eternal city, and Babylon becomes eternally destroyed. And in the same way you have this Messiah and the pseudo-Messiah, the Antichrist. You have the two prophets, the witnesses who prophesy, and you have the false prophet. There's the counterfeit that Satan seems to throw in on everything that God does. He can't create anything. He can only pervert what God has created. In this one, you're getting a picture on this woman's on the back of the beast, and it's going back to the beast from chapter 13 and giving you a little more insight into it. It's telling you right here that the seven heads represent seven hills that she sits on, so that this city is sitting on seven hills, which is why a lot of people have associated this with Rome. She's drunk on the blood of the saints. You can kind of see a little bit here where a lot of this would tie in if you look at the history of the Roman Catholic Church in terms of the Spanish Inquisition, the Crusades, all of the people. One pope at one point killed 1 million people in one day. There were some very evil popes at different points, but there was a lot of blood on the hands of the Catholic Church throughout history. And I do see somewhere in this where the Catholic Church could play a very strong major role in this. But getting back on focus here on this chapter, the beast, also the seven heads, represent seven kings. One of these seven kings gets a fatal head wound in battle, as from the prophecy of Zacharias, is restored back to life, and that's why he's the eighth king, who's one of the seven. And he's, according to Scripture, possessed by Satan, which is why he was and is not, and is to go down into perdition. You also have, that this harlot, this is like, as the other woman was the nation Israel, this woman is the nation Babylon, who's left desolate, naked, and destroyed. That the 10 horns represented 10 kings who give their authority and their power to the beast, to the Antichrist, at the same time. Now this beast represents both the leader and his kingdom, and that's what you see most of the time on these. And the correlation to this beast that you saw in chapter 13 on it, where it had the body of the leopard, the feet of the bear, the jaw of the lion, and was like the fourth beast who had 10 horns. And horns represent power, 10 represents complete. The Roman Empire had complete power at that time. And that's part of what you see is why they call this the revived Roman Empire, where that last empire, if you look at my charts, you can see a lot of the overlay on this on my charts, where I use from chapter 2 of Daniel, the dream of Nebuchadnezzar and the statue with the different empires of the world. I correlate that in the 70 weeks of Daniel. I correlate that with the vision that Daniel had of the ram and the goat that was explained in Daniel, that this represented the Medo-Persian Empire and the Grecian Empire, but yet tied it to the Antichrist. And I tie this to the beast from chapter 13 that comes up out of the waters, that is a composite of all of these empires. It has the body of the Medo-Persian Empire, the feet of the feet of the Medo-Persian Empire, the body of the Grecian Empire, and the jaw, the voice of Babylon, of the Babylonian Empire, and is like the Roman Empire, and has the power of the Roman Empire with the 10 horns. And so you can see the composites symbolically that fit in here on these pieces, but also that these 7 heads represent 7 kings, the same way that these 7 horns or 10 horns represent 10 kings. And so there's a lot of material that's covered in here, and that they have multiple references here because the 7 heads also represent the 7 hills that the woman's sitting on. So there's a lot of material covered in this. I hope that my charts help for giving a visual outline. If you didn't see any of this, I suggest you go to my website, www.inspired-word.com. Don't forget the dash in there. Or you can go to inspiredword.us, which will also take you there. You can see it on the bottom of the screen here. To look at the charts, which I use my paintings to use for visual pictures on these. And I hope that it helps people to understand the material a little bit better. I'm Chauncey Navarro. I'll see you back here at Inspired Word when we start Chapter 18, The Fall of Babylon.